What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a little bit of an unusual video reviewing 2020. Now this is going to be a little bit of an unscripted video, just going over the games I enjoyed and a review of the year in general, at least related to the channel. So let's first discuss what was good or bad about the channel before going on to the actual games I enjoyed. Now obviously the channel has gone through quite a few big changes, especially with the release of Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Moving on and becoming part of the Monster Hunter community has been a boon for the channel, expanding our community and more, and I just hope that the videos I've produced for the game have helped people out. This ultimately led to a big change in my life where I was able to leave my IRL job as a CCTV operator and focus on content creation full time. I had been meaning to leave the job at the CCTV company due to personal reasons, and Monster Hunter World and Iceborne as well as you guys gave me an opportunity to do so, so I took the plunge. Obviously it is risky and very unstable, but in terms of job satisfaction, it's been worth it. I hope that the videos continue to help and that they're worthy of your support so we can keep the channel going in the future. On top of that, Twitch has been fairly successful, but I haven't been putting my full focus into the live streaming. Live streaming for me is a way to play with you guys and the community, to answer questions. It's a lot easier to answer YouTube comments when they're asked during stream, and it's a way for me to connect with you guys. Helping people do the harder hunts on Monster Hunter has been a highlight, from doing Elatrion to Fatalis with you guys. It makes streaming worth it. So it's a nice little side project that developed alongside the YouTube channel. But it's not all been good news, of course. The IRL situations with this year have been extreme to say the least, from the sea virus unleashed by the Umbrella Corporation, to the riots, to natural disasters and more. It's been a hectic year. For the most part though, I have been relatively unaffected by this, except for the lockdown and frustration that everyone has to go through. We also reached a milestone on the channel of 50,000 subscribers, which I'm eternally grateful for, and I just hope that the future videos continue to earn your subscription. Obviously Monster Hunter will still be the main focus of the channel, especially with Monster Hunter Rise on the horizon, but as this is the full-time gig now, I'll be dipping my toes into other games from time to time, especially when there is a drop in Monster Hunter news or content. But anyway, let's move away from channel related and IRL stuff to talk about the games I enjoyed this year. This year for gaming has been an odd one. Normally in the past I'd do a top 10 list of my favourite games of the year, but as things have changed, as I have to be a little bit more wiser when it comes to my finances, I can't play every single game under the sun. But there were 5 that stood out for me this year. Obviously the first is Monster Hunter World Iceborne. This was technically released last year, but I played a lot of it this year. Iceborne, of course, as you all know, is the expansion to Monster Hunter World, although in some ways it could be seen as its own sequel. It had a ton of content, expanded what we could do with Monster Hunter World, and with over 4,000 hours put into the game, it's been a blast. For anyone who is wondering if they should go back to Monster Hunter World who haven't experienced Iceborne yet, I'd definitely recommend it. Iceborne combined with Monster Hunter World is kind of a complete package, so to speak. And if you're looking to get everything done, you can easily lose hundreds of hours in the game. And if you're a completionist, this can be even more, going into the thousands. But I could talk about Monster Hunter World Iceborne for ages. I do so every Monday when we do our Monday night Monster Hunter stream. But there have been other games I've enjoyed this year, not necessarily all covered on the channel. One of them, for example, is Total War Warhammer 2. During March and April there was a little bit of a hiccup with my editing laptop, which kind of kicked the bucket, so to speak. And through the kind donations of you guys as well as family and friends, I was able to get a dedicated editing PC. Now this was mainly for editing, but it could play the odd game. One of the games that has been sitting on my shelf for a fair while now was Total War Warhammer 2. My editing laptop was not able to really run it at a stable frame rate, as it is a very demanding game on your CPU. But this editing laptop could run it at least at 30 frames per second, sometimes more, so I finally got to dip my toes into Warhammer 2's Grand Campaign. Now those of you who know me a little bit more, I am a big Warhammer and Warhammer 40k fan. I prefer fantasy to 40k, but obviously with the Warhammer Fantasy End Times, things kind of came to an abrupt end, shall we say. But regardless, the Total War series, which I also have been a fan of, was able to bring back memories with the Total War Warhammer series, and Total War Warhammer 2 is almost a complete package. Yes, it's missing a few races, but nonetheless it was a great strategy game that allowed me to dive into the old world once more. And I cannot wait to play more of it, as there was the recent DLC, The Twisted and the Twilight, and on top of that, there are rumours that Total War Warhammer 3 is on the horizon. But on top of that, there were more games I enjoyed this year, the next being Maneater. This is probably the best shark game ever created, at least in my eyes. I did cover it on the channel, producing a few reviews, as well as guides to the various evolution sets, but it seems that this was a very niche game. Basically, it's a shark RPG, where you play as a bull shark who is seeking revenge on a shark hunter who killed your mother. That is pretty much the be-all and end-all of the story. Nonetheless, it's a dark humour satire game. The story is told like a wildlife documentary that you would find on National Geographic, and it's actually very amusing. Filled with tons of Easter eggs, collectibles and more, you can easily get lost swimming around as an apex predator. Obviously you don't start off as an apex, you start off as a baby bull shark, but you grow up as you level up. But nonetheless, it's a great game. It's not the longest of games out there, reaching around 20 to 30 hours, depending if you're going for the completion run on it. But regardless, I enjoyed every moment of it. The other game I really enjoyed this year was Ghost of Tsushima. This open world action game where you live the life of a samurai is filled with content that you can get lost in. On top of that, it's a beautiful game to look at, with a compelling story and gameplay that excels, especially when it comes to swordplay. It's a game that I can definitely recommend. But for me, I may have played more of the multiplayer than I have the single player. After launch, Sucker Punch released a free multiplayer mode known as Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is a 4-player co-op mode where you take on either pseudo-story missions or waves of enemies in survival missions. But regardless if you're in it for the multiplayer or the amazing and massive single player, it's well worth your time. Out of the AAA titles that we had this year, personally this would have been my game of the year, especially when compared to what else we had this year. It was stable enough, the story was compelling enough, the gameplay was excellent in my opinion, especially when it came to the swordplay. It looks amazing, so in my eyes it won Game of the Year, taking into account all these elements, not just focusing on one over the others. But the final game that I've really enjoyed this year is Genshin Impact. This is a real guilty pleasure of mine. Genshin Impact I picked up on a whim after a member of our Discord, Han, recommended it. Now, I've never really been big on anime games, but as this was a free-to-play game, I picked it up. However, I was a little bit anxious, to say the least, especially because I heard it was a gacha game, which means basically loot boxes. But after doing some research and playing it for a little while, I found that you can pretty much get through the game as a free-to-play player and still have a fun and in-depth experience. I love the art design, I love the combat. Any game that has a elemental combo system is instantly a hit with me, to be honest. This is all thanks to Mass Effect and the combo system I first experienced in that game. So in terms of gameplay and design, it definitely got me. It also bears many similarities to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is another plus. I also felt that as this is a game that I've been playing in my spare time, there was no pressure to make content on it, so to speak. But as I've gone on, unfortunately the content creator bug has kicked in a little bit, and when I enjoy a game enough, I start to feel like I want to make content on it. But we'll see how things go in the future. Regardless, this game seems like it's going to be supported for quite some time, so I'm going to be looking forward to diving back into it every now and again. But for me, those were the games that I enjoyed most this year. Obviously there were other games that were released like Doom Eternal, which I've played but I haven't played enough to really talk about it too much, as well as Cyberpunk, which although I like the game, it unfortunately it's a buggy mess, to say the least. I can imagine the game being a lot more enjoyable when things become a lot more stable, and I'm still going to make the odd video on it, especially when it comes to builds and that, but I just hope the bugs get sorted out sooner than later. But there we have it, that's me rambling on about the games I enjoyed this year, as well as a review of 2020 in regards to the channel. Hopefully next year we'll see some semblance of normality return to the world, and I hope that the videos that are produced on the channel continue to entertain, inform or more. Of course, if you want to support the channel, subbing, viewing, liking videos is always helpful, but if you want to go the extra mile, you can always sub to the Twitch channel or become a member on YouTube. But these are purely optional. For me, the main satisfaction is knowing that the videos have helped you out, and as long as they continue to do that, then I'll be happy. But anyway, what have been your favourite games of the year? Please leave a comment down below because I'd love to hear them. And until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my top games of 2020. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.